I'm going to tell you why you can't afford your health care, all right? I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to use actually a real example. It's called EPI, Exocrine Pancreatic Insufficiency. Really big words. Reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I actually, sometimes I listen to AM radio. Yes, I am that boring. And I kept seeing this as an advertisement, and it got me really curious. I was like, I know what exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, it's a really big term, but I can decipher what it is and what it means. And so I wanted to just kind of follow the rabbit trail with this, because obviously they're creating awareness of what this condition actually is and then leading you to a website that gives you the solution for EPI is what they call it. Because you know, anything that requires a lot of fancy words, they like to give it a kind of a slogan like EPI or some kind of like letters with it, and they expect everyone to understand what it is. So I follow the rabbit trail, and guys, I'm going to make sure you pay attention, because going down this rabbit trail is going to help you to understand today why healthcare is so expensive. And actually, why a lot of people just actually, they want to retire, but they actually still have a job so that they can just pay for either their health insurance or pay for their Medicare secondary. Guys, this should make you angry. This should blow you out of the water. But guys, anytime that there is some kind of injustice that is taking place, especially when it comes to healthcare and things like that, I am always going to be the first one to bring it to you. So I'm going to show you, why you can't afford your health care, or why your health, your health insurance is so doggone expensive. And I'm going to show you why, literally, at the end of this video. Exocrine Pancreatic Insufficiency, okay? EPI is now what they call it. So I kept seeing this on the radio. Like, if you suffer with these symptoms, then you might have what's known as exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Make sure you go to this website, and this website will educate you about EPI, but of course where it leads to eventually is it leads to you getting a medication for exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, and it's not a cheap medication. I'm going to show you how expensive it is and how inexpensive the same thing is if you are actually coming into my office, okay? So let's talk about EPI, exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. Just a heads up on really what this means is this. In fact, there's so many big words when it comes to medical speak. I can't stand it, because really it's all in Latin, and it really is designed just to confuse you and to scare the heck out of you. And so when you look at exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, I'll give you the skinny on actually what it is. So exocrine, or pancreas, let's talk about the pancreas. Pancreas is an organ. It's a digestive organ. Pancreas has two functions: endocrine, and it's also exocrine. Endocrine means it will actually secrete hormones into the body. The primary hormone that it actually is secreting is actually insulin. And then it's also an exocrine gland. And what exocrine is it means it secretes it outside of the body. Now, it actually secretes what's known as digestive enzymes, okay? Enzymes that actually help you break down carbohydrates and fats primarily, but it still is considered an exocrine gland, secreting things outside of the body, because actually it secretes enzymes into the digestive system, which still is considered outside of the body. But you guys didn't know that. So really, the digestive system is still considered outside of the body, and it secretes enzymes into there in order to help you break down your food, okay? So insufficiency means you don't have enough of it. So basically what EPI is your pancreas cannot secrete enough digestive enzymes in order to be able to break down your food. That's all it is. So EPI, what are the symptoms? When you have, and this actually comes from WebMD, when you have exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, your body will let you know, okay? The condition happens when your pancreas doesn't make the enzymes you need to digest food. Without them, you won't get enough important vitamins and nutrients from your diet. This can lead to a few classic signals of this condition, okay? So here are some of the symptoms. You're losing weight without trying. You have a greasy, foul-smelling stools that float or are tough to flush. It's a sign your body isn't absorbing fat from your diet like it should. So yes, the pancreas does digest fats, but there's another organ that really does most of this, and it's actually called the gallbladder. So the gallbladder is a storage tank for bile, and bile actually is what helps to emulsify or break down the fats small enough so that it can be actually passed through the digestive system. So this is why Ladies, if you have a gallbladder that's not working very right, you can see it actually in your stool. You can also see it on a stool test. If you get your gallbladder out and you eat a large amount of fat and a meal, this is why it just passes right through you, and you tend to have the floaties instead of the sinkers when it comes to your stool. Can also cause diarrhea, also true with gallbladder, if you're not breaking down your fats, because the food doesn't get broken down, and it actually will pass right through you very quickly. It can cause stomach cramps. You also may experience bloating, bad smelling gas. When you don't absorb food very well, the bacteria can grow in your intestine and releases smelly gases. Specifically, in the small intestine, you can have an overgrowth of certain bacteria that really actually will break down that food, and actually their byproduct of that metabolism is methane. And that's why if someone has a lot of gas, a lot of bad smelling gas, this is actually the methane, and this is because you start to have an overgrowth of specific bacteria in the small intestine. You can also get, pay attention, swelling in your lower legs, skin that's pale, bruises easily, or gets rashes. Okay, so I want you to think about that. What is really happening? All of those things means that you're not, number one, breaking down your food enough, that those large food particles are irritating the small intestine. The body says, get rid of it. So it'll actually start to open up the gut, start to bring water in so that that food can pass through you very quickly. You're not going to be able to absorb fats very well, which also means your fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. You'll also start to get overgrowths of bacteria within the small intestine, swelling into the legs, and then skin that's pale, bruises easily, or gets rashes. I want you to think about this, is that you also can have some dry skin. You can also have that bruises easily. All that means is you're not absorbing specific vitamins, specifically like vitamin C, for example. Or you actually can get rashes. Now think of that, is that if you are getting rashes, that actually means you start to have a very systemic inflammatory response that's coming from the gastrointestinal system, and then also causing an immune response at the level of the skin, okay? So these are some of the symptoms, and you could also have similar symptoms when it comes to not having a gallbladder, or having a gallbladder that's very sluggish and not working the way that it's supposed to. So you see that the symptoms are very similar, mainly because you're not able to break down fats and absorb nutrients very well, okay? So let's look at more clues. Here's what they say. Besides its outward symptoms, EPI can affect your bodies in ways that you can't always see or feel. When you absorb fat and other nutrients from food very well, your body can be low, or when you don't absorb nutrients from food well, your body can be low in vitamins, what? A, D, E, and K, because again, it's fat soluble, and the pancreas is actually releases enzymes that help you break down your fat so that you can absorb fat soluble vitamins. Without them, you can become less able to see at night or in low light, which is a vitamin A deficiency, a condition called night blindness. You can also get bone diseases like osteopenia. So you can start to have issues with low bone mass or poor bone mass, and that's actually a product of not being able to absorb vitamin D. It's also a product of having very low stomach acid as well. It can also lead to things like anemia, in which your blood doesn't have enough healthy red blood cells, and this also has to do with maybe some intestinal bleeding that's taking place, or you just can't absorb nutrients in order to be able to manufacture red blood cells. In severe cases, your bones could break easily. You might get muscle spasms or cramps or have seizures, okay? When you don't get enough vitamins and nutrients from your food, you can also have problems with walking and balance. You can also notice weakness or numbness in your hands and feet. So basically, what are they saying? They're saying that you can't absorb nutrients the way that you are supposed to, like your B vitamins, like your fat-soluble vitamins, and then also you can't absorb other minerals and things like magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And this is actually some of the things that can be involved with heart arrhythmias. So we've had people who have had heart arrhythmias, and we start giving them higher doses of minerals, things like magnesium and potassium, and the heart actually starts to normalize. Now, it's not just that you just need to keep dumping minerals into it, it's just because the digestive system is so bad that you can't absorb those things the way that you are supposed to. Rather than go ahead and they do a heart scan, they do some kind of a bunch of testing, and then they do a cardiac ablation in which they literally just kill off part of the heart muscle in order to try to normalize a cardiorhythmia. So you see how crazy that it is that there's always a reason why. Look at all of those symptoms and how it's related to how literally one organ doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. So here's what they actually say can cause exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, all right? Guys, I promise you, it's gonna get better. But if you know anyone right now who has any kind of issues with their digestive system, or had their gallbladder out, or having problems with diarrhea, or they're having loose stool, they're having all of that, please share this video with them, okay? There's more than one reason why this can happen, but this is just when one organ doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. So here's what WebMD actually says are some of the causes. Number one, it can be diabetes. Yes, it can be type 1. Yes, it can be type 2. But I want you to think of this. With type 2 diabetes, basically what happens is those people become very insulin they can become very insulin insensitive. They don't hear insulin very well. They can also get to the point where it becomes so bad where the pancreas just basically poops out and can't actually make and release insulin in order to be able to, for you to be able to lower your blood sugars to shuttle it into cells for energy or into fat cells. So yes, it can be type 2 diabetes, but the other thing is I want you to think of people with type 2 diabetes. They are just overworking their pancreas, trying to release insulin because of all of the sugars that they need to shuttle into their cells or into their fat cells. People with diabetes are also very, very inflammatory. And again, anytime that there's inflammation, even if it's systemic, it goes into an organ, what the first thing that happens is that organ that gets inflamed becomes very fatty. It also becomes very inefficient. So I want you to think, if you have fatty liver disease, you're also going to have fatty infiltration of the pancreas as well. Now they also say some of the causes are going to be inflammatory bowel disease and celiac disease. And I, for this, actually disagree 100%, because any type of inflammation that takes place in the bowel or any kind of celiac disease, it is really not a cause as much as it's a result of not properly even breaking down your foods. So it's kind of like saying, like, whatever happens in the top part of your digestive system, like in the stomach, in the pancreas, in the liver and gallbladder, if those things are going wrong, then all of the dysfunction tends to go downstream into the small intestine and into the large intestine. So that stuff will get sick when the top part of the digestive system isn't working the way that it's supposed to. And then finally what they say is they actually say chronic pancreatic inflammation. This comes down to, like, what on earth can cause chronic pancreatic inflammation? Well, how about type 1 diabetes? So remember, you have had an autoimmune reaction to your pancreas. It destroys the beta cells of the pancreas, but think of this, it also can damage the actual cells of the gland that are releasing these exocrine enzymes, okay? So all of those are made by the pancreas. But the other thing is, too, is really what you need to look at is you need to look at why is there inflammation that's going on. Specifically, like food allergies and things like that. Like, what is causing all of this immune system responses in the body, especially as it pertains to the gastrointestinal system. So you can see that I would say probably the biggest things are chronic inflammation and diabetes. Inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease is just a result of what's happening in through the pancreas not working the way that it's supposed to. Now guys, I want you to pay super, super close attention to this. I don't know if you can see this. I can't really zoom up on it right now, but so I followed, I heard the commercial, I went to the website, and then I really just followed and I said, okay, what is this medication that they are pushing on people? What do they want them to take, okay? Here's the name of the medication. It's called Creon, C-R-E-O-N. Guys, I'm gonna tell you something. This is gonna make you angry, all right? So just prepare yourselves. So it's called Creon, okay? And what basically Creon is, okay? What it is, I was looking for anything magical in it, but basically what it is that it is pancreatic enzymes derived from a pig, all right? That's all it is. It is pancreatic enzymes that they get from a pig. So basically what they're saying is this, all right, if you have pancreatic exocrine insufficiency, then what we're going to do is we're going to give you pig enzymes, the same enzymes that it takes for the pig to break down food. We're going to put that into your body. You're going to take this as a quote-unquote medication, and it's going to contain the digestive enzymes that you need to be able to break down your food. And there you go, problem solved. You start breaking down your foods better, start breaking down your fats, you start breaking down your carbohydrates better. But here's what's interesting. This is what's interesting, because I'm going to tell you something, is that actually when you look at the difference between Creon and the ingredients, and actually the digestive enzyme, the pancreatic enzymes that we do give and recommend to some people, this one, the one that we have, actually contains way more enzymes than actually Creon. Now, this is where it starts to get really interesting and also just makes me want to do a face palm. Because if you don't have insurance, they do offer it as a cash price. So if you don't have any insurance, the cash price, if you were to go into Walgreens, would be $1,005.37 for a 1-month supply. Let me say that again. If you don't have insurance for Creon, it's going to cost you out of your pocket $1,005.37 for a 1-month supply, which means this. You don't have any insurance, it costs you $12,000 a year in order to take this medication, okay? Now, the ones that we have, you know how much it costs? When you pay out of your own pocket, we don't send it to insurance, it costs 30 bucks. 30 bucks! It's the difference between $12,000 and about $360. In fact, I will tell you this, is that we don't even recommend to take pancreatic enzymes your whole life. The only things, the only certain supplements that we have people take is if they, forever, was if they have an organ removed. So if they've had their ovaries removed, we may have some people on some specific, like bovine ovaries, just in order to try to keep their hormones up until they hit menopause. If they've had their gallbladder out, well, they're always going to need some kind of gallbladder support because they're not going to regrow the organ. But many times is that once we start actually getting to the reason why, this is just there temporarily to support them while we start working on some big time causes. But even if you stayed on it your whole life, it's the difference between $12,000 and $360. Now, can you see why healthcare is so expensive? Now can you see why it is so frustrating? Now can you see why your insurance premiums are costing for a family $1,500 to $2,000 a month for some kind of Cadillac policy? And you say, well, my employer, they pay for it. No, they don't. Your employer does not pay for your health care coverage. What they're doing is they're paying for your health care coverage, and then you're not taking as much home as a paycheck. So here all these people are like, I need to go to an employer that offers, to pay for my health insurance. They're not paying for it. I'm an employer, and guess what? If someone wants health insurance, I will then pay them less to take home. So irregardless, you are paying for it out of your own pocket. And if you don't have insurance for some reason, it's going to cost you $1,000, which, by the way, I wonder how much they're actually charging you if, in fact, you do have insurance. It's got to be much, much more. Literally, you see all the waste and you see the abuse that's taking place with our insurance system. It is fraudulent, okay? $12,000 a year versus $360 per year. This actually is true when it comes to even the labs that we run. Guys, like when we do what's known as an immune system panel, which is like CD4, CD8 cells, natural killer cells, macrophages, it's a very, very specific immune system test. It costs a patient who pays out of their own pocket here in our office $200. And then we have people who say, I think I'm going to try to get my doctor to recommend it for me so my insurance can pay for it. And then the insurance says, no, we're not going to pay for this. And now they have to foot a bill that's going to be $6,000 or $7,000. You realize the labs that we run are literally at most 10% of what an insurance company charges for the same exact lab. It totally makes you wonder, It is absolutely incredible, okay? So here's the solution. You get exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, all right? Here's what you gotta check. Number one, what on earth are your insulin levels? Because if people have very high insulin levels and they're insulin resistant, then I guarantee you they're gonna have problems with fatty liver, which also means they're gonna have problem with fatty pancreas as well. How about your inflammatory levels? What are your inflammatory levels at? And you're a doctor, are they actually measuring this? Things like C-reactive protein, things like homocysteine. What are those inflammatory levels at? What about your food allergies? Do you have any food allergies? Because remember, is when that inflammation becomes systemic, then you start having inflammation everywhere. And so, you know, when you get a food allergy test, it will actually show you the types of foods that you are not breaking down. So for example, someone gets a food allergy test and it is nothing but fat, then we know that you're not breaking down your fats enough. I know you're gonna be vitamin deficient, A, D, E, and K. I also know that from looking at it, a lot of fats means that pancreas is probably not working very good, and neither is the gallbladder as well. So how about your stomach, your pancreas, your liver, your gallbladder? How are those things actually working? Those things are not working. If you're not breaking down your proteins, you're not breaking down your carbs and your fat, if you're not breaking down in the gallbladder, the fats, how about in the liver? If you're not able to detox from your hormones, if you're not able to actually convert fatty acids into an energy source, if those things are happening, we know that there is problems with the north end of your digestive system, and all the problems continue to flow south. Remember, everything is above, down, inside, out. Everyone focuses on the colon and the colon cleanse and the probiotics. Guys, if this isn't working in the stomach and the pancreas and the liver, then everything that goes below that is going to start to have problems. So I want to ask you a question. You wonder why you're sick, broke, and you continue to work in a job you hate just to keep your insurance benefits. Do you know how many people are literally working just to pay for insurance or just to have their employer pay for their insurance because their monthly premiums are $1,500 a month just to keep their insurance, just to go to the doctor, just to give them a medication that costs them $1,500 a month when there's a solution that could have cost them $30 a month. And yet they still don't want to pay out of their own pocket. Guys, here's how we change healthcare. We change healthcare literally by just, I almost say, get rid of insurance, or at least have some kind of level playing field where actually you get the choice on what you want to do. You get the choice if you want to go and take medications, if you want to go and take drugs, if you want to have the COVID-19 vaccine, which is a joke, by the way, if you want to go that route and take cholesterol medication, bunch of antidepressants, because I'm the one who sees that after the fact, then you can do that. However, if you want to go the route that's going to make sense, in which you're actually getting the right testing, you're changing your lifestyle, you're reducing your stressors, and you are actually starting to own your health rather than rely on a doctor, then you should both be given the equal chance and opportunity to choose the path that you want to choose. Because right now, it is heavily skewed and heavily favored going to the doctor and going down a path of more drugs, more medications, more vaccines, more masks, all of those different things. And the guys, people, like in the wellness way, who are actually getting people well, people who are getting well are the people who are taking responsibility for their health. We're guiding and leading them along that way. We should be given the same opportunity to get those people well. But everything is skewed towards going down that medical route. And unfortunately, we have people who are sick, they're broke, because they're in a medical system that doesn't allow them the choice on what they want to do. And it's so expensive, and they've never gotten any answers. So they're sick, they're broke, and they're just working a job just to keep paying for their chronic health conditions because they need the insurance. It's terrible, it's evil, it's corrupt. I don't like it, but you know what? If you help me, we can change it. So the 10 people watching right now, if you help me, we can change it. I can only change it for a certain number of people, but when you share, when you like, when you comment, when you get yourself well, that's how we change healthcare. not from trying to change policy, but changing it from a grassroots effort.